All right, gang. I want to talk to you right now about something that can be configured inside of a Cisco switch that can be confusing for many novice VLAN administrators, and that is the native 802.1q VLAN. Now, just for a second, let's go back to VLANs. We said if I've got something here on VLAN 2, VLAN 2 is a particular number assigned to an access port. When the switch realizes that it must forward that information over a trunk link, it will add the number 2, the VLAN ID, to the next switch, who will also forward it on to the next switch, so that that switch can say, oh, is the MAC address that I need found in the VLAN 2 MAC address table? And if it is, then it will forward it on to the destination with that VLAN ID removed. Remember, the VLAN ID only exists here in this nether space of the trunk links, all right? Now, we said that to say this. What if I had a device that was off of VLAN 1? Well, VLAN 1 is two things. It is the default VLAN. You can't get rid of it. All of your ports are assigned to it out of the box, and it is used, in fact, behind the scenes for some control plane switch-to-switch operations like VTP. It is also the native VLAN by default with 802.1q trunking. Now, what does that mean? Let's see what happens here. The client belongs to VLAN 1. VLAN 1 is associated with that particular port. The switch realizes that it must forward this particular frame to another switch over a trunk link. But because it is the native VLAN, it forwards the frame without adding the VLAN tag number. It doesn't add the VLAN ID. It's just the frame. There's no number 1 in it. It's just the frame. The next switch says, oh, I've received a frame over a trunk link, but there was no VLAN ID in it. Therefore, let me check. What is the native VLAN on this switch? Let's assume it's set with the default and it's number 1. So it says, I'm going to assume it's number 1 because there was no number there. And that's what native VLAN means, is let's assume. And you know what happens when you assume, don't you? Then the switch will forward it on to the next switch over this trunk link. Again, because it's the native VLAN, it's the original frame, untainted by any VLAN ID. This switch, wrong switch here. There we go. The switch receives it. Here we go, something in VLAN 1. We're good to go. And therefore, it will forward it to this device. And again, there just never was that configuration. We never identified. So this switch says, oh, there's nothing there. What is my native VLAN? Oh, good, it's number 1. So everything's consistent. Therefore, it forwards it on to the device based upon the VLAN 1 MAC address table. So the native VLAN refers to that VLAN in which we will not tag the frame and therefore assume that a particular VLAN number is associated with it. Now, what would happen if your switches were configured differently? What would happen if on this switch, let's say this switch right here, the native VLAN was 2, where on this switch the native VLAN is 1? Well, VLAN 1 sends in information. VLAN 1 forwards that on to the trunk port. The trunk port then receives the frame, but there's no VLAN ID because it's the native VLAN. And it says, so no frame, so what VLAN should I assume that was from? I should assume it's from VLAN 2. So therefore, we've got this device hanging over here in VLAN 1. This device says the native VLAN is VLAN 2. It goes and looks in its MAC address table for VLAN 2 for that server's MAC address. It can't find it, and so it will never forward it to this server. Or again, possibly if it was a broadcast frame or something like that, it would end up broadcasting that out into a different VLAN. So most administrators are not a big fan of the native VLAN. They try to avoid using the native VLAN as much as possible. And so what they will do is actually reassign consistently the native VLAN. So let's say it was 111 for all devices. All right, so all devices know the native VLAN is 111. So we've got it consistently configured. And then they'll make sure that no ports are assigned VLAN 111. So you move it off of the default VLAN, and then you don't use it. However, we're going to find in wireless that there is a specific reason why the native VLAN is going to be very important to correctly configuring our devices.